What's up, folks? This is Tony Brewer. You're listening to or watching, as the case may be, Cogitations. Cogitations is the podcast where we think about things, we contemplate them, we turn them over in our minds, we discuss them. Daniel chapter 7, verse 28, Daniel writes, "Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me. My countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart." We are not going to keep the matter in our heart. We are going to talk about it. Today we're going to talk about Free for All Friday. We got folks rolling in. Usually Free for All Friday's a pretty happening show. It's the best interacted with show that we have throughout the week. I have cut back live streaming, so I do Tuesday through Friday now. But maybe something will happen in the world and we will. What's wrong? What's that making me reload my chat? Okay, hope everybody's doing all right. Hope we're not having technical difficulties. But anyway, so yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, Mondays. I don't do anything Monday. It's been good for me. I needed it. I think it's okay to take a day off during the week. It's good. Fridays are such a good crowd. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the political climate. I want to share with you something I find interesting. First off, the United States has spoken. Democracy, whatever you want to call it, has prevailed. We had people telling us that if we wanted anything other than a far left-wing, liberal, diversity, equity, and inclusion type of regime where merit was thrown by the wayside, where a man is judged or a woman is judged not for the content of their character, but because of the immutable external presentation, the attributes that they have to the world. In other words, the color of their skin, their genitalia, their ideologies, although ideologies are not immutable. But you understand what I mean. If we didn't want that, if we didn't want abortion up to birth, maybe a little after, if we wanted something besides having kindergartner teachers educate our children about aberrant sexual behavior, then we were racist, sexist, bigoted, homophobic, misogynistic, misandronistic, or misandrist, I don't know. Anyway, that we were just full of hate. The nation has spoke. We're not going to mess with that. And I think the nation has spoken in such a way that the people on the fringe that just wanted to be left alone, they activated. I mean, Pennsylvania went red, for crying out loud. The Amish turned out in droves to vote. So I'm going to read here. This is just a random. This was posted as of when I loaded this screen. This was posted as of 41 minutes ago. I'm going to read this. I'm not going to tell you who it's from because the person is on my friends list and he only shared it with friends, but I'm going to read it. "The reasons I have previously stated are foremost. But I will also note that the profound vitriol against Trump and his supporters had an influence on my final decision. 2 impeachments, one of which occurred when he was a lame duck, were a hilarious and feeble display of pure contempt. New York changing laws just to try and convict Trump of victimless so-called crimes further demonstrated their extreme bias. And then there have been the assassination attempts, the abject failure of the Secret Service under the Biden administration to protect President Trump when a blatant attempt on his life was being arranged by an amateur right before their eyes just shows how much they needed him out of their way. When he stood bleeding from a gunshot wound, towering over his pathetic bodyguard, pumping his fist and shouting, 'Fight, fight, fight,' my opinion of him began to change." I think that's what the liberals in the culture Awesome. Hey, Alabama, that's a good comment. I can't wait to get to it. But I think the liberals, our liberal friends, don't understand about the culture. Nobody likes to see somebody punching down on somebody else. And what the liberals don't realize is all of the DEI, all of the LGBTQ, AAIP, Two Spirit Plus, those are now the establishment people. Christianity, Western culture, and when I say Christianity, I'm really talking about Christendom. I'm not talking about true Christianity as it's defined in the Bible. I'm talking about just what passes for Christianity in Western culture. Christianity is now the subculture. It's not the mainstream. I mean, true Christianity will always be the subculture, but Christendom is the subculture. Patriotism is now, it's not the subculture, excuse me. Patriotism and Christianity are now the countercultural. Christian nationalism, I've been told, is just a dog whistle for Nazis. Can't be a Christian national because that's white supremacist. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. I'm patriotic. I think the United States of America ought to help the United States of America first. I don't think that makes me racist. Red, yellow, black, and white, I don't care. They're all precious in God's sight. And everybody has problems, and everybody's got to work through problems. The problem is whenever we violate this founding principle of the United States of America that all men are created equal and have certain inalienable rights, none of those rights are based on skin color. None of those rights are based on privilege. In other words, what social caste were you born into? You may have been born in the ghetto. You may have been born in the trailer parks. You may have been born in the slums. You may have been born in the holler with a dirt floor and no glass in your windows. No electricity. You know, there are places like that. You have the same opportunities. You have the same ceiling of limitation as everybody else. What do you do with it? You've got the same 24 hours in the day as Ben Carson had. You have the same 24 hours of the day as Elon Musk had. You have the same 24 hours in your day as I have. I didn't do near what Elon Musk did. I didn't do near what Jeff Bezos did. I haven't made the sacrifices and the determined grit that they've had. Anyway. All right. I'm going to get this, these comments starting to come in. These comments are good. First off, I like this. A friend suggested writing down what your fears are for the coming presidential term, then check them through the year and see if they happen. Man, I would suggest anybody doing that. That's not a bad thing. Look, do you think people are stupid that, I'm not saying, sorry, hey, Alabama. I'm not saying you. I'm saying generally. Do we think people are stupid who have trepidations and anxiety about a Trump presidency? I don't think they are. I think they've got some valid concerns. Why not acknowledge them? How do you treat your child? And I shared a meme not too long ago about monsters hiding under the bed. Let me see if I can find it. Let me go to. Anyway, the question is, how do you deal with a little child who comes into your room and says, "Daddy, there's a monster under my bed"? Do you make fun of them? Do you berate them? Do you tell them how dumb they are, how foolish they are, how their feelings don't matter? Listen, I get it. Facts don't care about your feelings. That is absolutely correct. But on the flip side, feelings don't care about your facts. So we have to learn how to communicate in the language that our contemporaries are speaking. Well, how long ago did I share that meme? I go in spurts where I share. Maybe a Come on, Tony. Anyway, the meme, I was being very, very silly. And basically, I made the alluded to that that when my son thought there was a monster on the bed, I gave him a big old knife and said, "You now have the power to kill it." Something to that effect. It was whatever I said. It was as silly as that. But that's not how I really treated him. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't play into his victimhood. I wasn't like, "Oh, yes, there is a monster. You're exactly right. You need me to protect you from him." That's not what I did. I equipped him to be able to face the monster. Now, you and I both know the monster wasn't there, but my wife and I guess, I equipped him to be able to deal with the monster. We did for Christmas. I got him a Winchester brand Bowie knife. Big old impressive looking knife. It cost about $25, $29 maybe from Tractor Supply. It's rather an inexpensive, cheaply made knife, but for the money, it's a lot of bang for the buck. But to a kid that young, it's big and impressive. And I gave it to him, and he slept with that thing for a long time. In fact, I ain't so sure that he don't still sleep with it between his mattress. God bless him. But the fact of the matter is, we made him feel powerful enough that he was able to slay the monster. He was able to deal with the monster. Our friends in the United States who are on the left, they feel like there's a monster. They have that impending dread, that existential dread, that they don't know what's going on. They're anxious about it. They really feel bad. Why not engage with them? Say, "Listen, I know what you're going through. I felt the same thing that you're going through whenever Joe Biden was elected. America lasted. If Trump is everything that you say that he is, the United States of America will last. And then there will be a blue wave in 4 years. But in the meantime, let's be proactive. Let's not be helpless. Let's write down all of the things that you fear for the coming presidential term, and then let's revisit them. Validate their fears. Yes, I absolutely see why you think Trump's going to be a fascist. He did put his tongue in his cheek and say, "I'll be a dictator, but only for one day." Well, that's having a one-day dictator is bad enough. Don't sweep these people's concern under the rugs. Treat them and deal with them where they are. Peter writes about a man dwelling with his wife in knowledge. That means that there are differences between a man and a wife, and the man has to be aware of that. I know that my wife is motivated by different things, and she is a mystery wrapped in an enigma, hidden under a cloak of visibility that I don't know what room it is in, and if I touch it, my hands are numb and I can't feel it. But you know what? I try my best to deal with her or dwell with her in knowledge. I understand that there are differences if I don't understand the differences, and that has served me well over these years. We ought to apply that particular skill. Everybody's got it. We ought to apply that particular skill to people on the left side of the political aisle. This is a very good practical suggestion. Write down what your fears are for the coming presidential term and check them through the year to see if they happen. Greetings, Diana Harden. It's so good to see you. Terry Crooks, I hope you're having an amazingly wonderful and a wonderfully amazing day. Hello, brother. Robert Ladies, good to see you. Robert, I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing and you are where you are. I don't interact on Facebook probably as much as I should if I think I'm going to be out there being some kind of personality on the internet. But I see your stuff come across my timeline, and I'm always happy at the things you're doing. Anyhow, and then Scott Beck, I'm going to get this comment from Hey Alabama because it's on the same vein, and then we're going to transition into your question because yes, there's some stuff to talk about there. Whoops. Children need to know their parents have their back and can protect them. Don't brush them off. Let me tell you something. Hey, Alabama, you may not know this, but if you've never messed with horses, but I've messed with horses. My wife would be very, very proud of me. I'm going to talk about something that's known as the family systems approach to therapy. Basically, if you've okay, so I'm going to use my family for an example. We have 4: Tony, LaBeth, Anthony, and Abigail. Anthony is my son. LaBeth is my daughter. LaBeth is my wife. Abigail is my daughter. I'm their father. Sorry, I cracked me up. Anyway, let's say that we just couldn't live together. We can't get along. Well, my wife is a professional therapist. So she says, I got a bright idea. Whenever I have clients that are dealing with a situation like this, we recommend therapy. All right. Awesome. Hey, Alabama, what I'm about to say may resonate with you. You may already know what I'm about to say, or you may have witnessed it and just never thought it significant enough to track. But check it out. When one member of a family out of a family unit starts getting therapy and starts improving, the entirety of the family unit is positively affected across all aspects and dynamics of their relationships. It's because we are part of a system. For instance, in the book we're studying on Sunday morning, I Am a Church Member, one of the chapters, maybe it's the introduction, talks about if the only person at your church who reads this book and makes these pledges and makes these changes, then your church will be better because one of its members will be better. See, it's a systems thing. Now, what's that have to do with horses? And what's that have to do with children need to know their parents have their back and can protect them, don't brush them off? A lot of times, mayors are notoriously pushy. I think it's because typically they are, domestically anyway, they are with a herd that has all geldings. Very rarely will you have a stallion. I don't know that I've ever dealt with a very pushy mare that was in a herd that didn't have a proper stallion to mare ratio. Maybe we can talk about that at a later date. I don't think it's important to the illustration. So if I decide to pull that mare and I start working with that mare, the first thing I got to do is she's got to submit to me. So I'll get her in the round corral and I'll make her move her feet. And when I see her start dropping her head and licking her lips, I step in front of her shoulder and she stops. She turns herself to me. She drops her head and licks her lips. I leave her alone. I let her rest. And what I'm trying to get her to understand is pushing me causes her to burn calories. Respecting me allows her to conserve calories. It's a very easy social contract between a horse and his trainer, or her trainer as the case may be. Now, the interesting thing is once you establish the boundaries with the mare, and once you start teaching the mare that you're assertive, that mare will quit being pushy. You'll go into a stall with the mare, and she used to pin her ears back. She used to aggressively shake. She used to paw. And she would, when you dropped her feed, she'd push you out of the way to get to her food. I mean, some of these mares get pretty rough. Once you start improving that mare's behavior in other areas, you will find that mare's behavior improves in all areas. And I think it's very easily seen that in that situation, you have proven to the mayor that you are capable of being in control, so she doesn't have to be. That's what we're doing with our children when we empower them instead of entitle them. Enable them, I guess I should say is a better word. So we need to empower our children. My son comes, Daddy, I'm scared of the monster under my bed in the closet. Hey, son, monsters are something to be scared of. Now, you shouldn't be scared of these, but I understand that you are. But let me tell you what we're going to do. For Christmas, here's this big old knife. You keep it between your mattress. You keep it under your pillow. I don't care what you do with it. If a monster comes in the middle of the night, you do your business. But if you're comfortable enough, then you can holler at me, do your business, and I'll be on the way while you're doing your business. Either way, you know you can handle this. And if you can't, I've got your back. We had no more issues. That's how we need to take care of children. That's how we need to empower them, not entitle, not enable them. When it comes to the election with Trump and dealing with these people that are so disenfranchised and anxious and scared, try to see what you can do. Be creative. Take practical steps to validate them in their fears, but empower them to overcome them. Whatever Donald Trump does that you think is going to be so bad, I promise you it's not going to be so bad that America won't survive. You've got this. All right. That's it. You gave him the tools that he needed. You had his back. Now, thank you very much for that. Now, let me get to right here. Tony, I apologize if you covered it already, but do you see the U.S. election having any influence over the next Canadian election? Yes. Pierre Poilievre, I will make my prediction right now. Pierre Poilievre is the conservative leader right now, and he will, I think the election's in 2025. I think it's next year. Hold on a second. Let me do this. When is, hold on. The next Canadian Prime Minister election. 45th Canadian federal election is October of 2025. It will take place on or before October the 20th of 2025. I have no doubt in my mind that Pierre Poilievre is going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. He is fiscally responsible. He's as conservative as a conservative Canadian can be. He would not be conservative in the U.S., but I would gladly vote for him because your vote is not a Valentine. Your vote is a chess move. And I will be voting for Pierre Poilievre next year. And many other people we are. I haven't talked about politics in public. I haven't talked about United States politics in public more than I have since I came to Canada. Everybody is interested in Canadian politics. They are interested in Canadian politics, but everybody is interested in the U.S. politics. Everybody knows here. Oh, I can't stand that Trump, but I'm so glad they elected him because Canadians had it good whenever Trump was in office. Look, our exchange rate is already, let me do this. 1 Canadian dollar to USD. Oh, hold on. 1 USD to CAD. Yeah, it's a 39% exchange rate. The multiplier is 1.39. So if you send $100 US, the conversion is $139 Canadian. And that is a very conservative exchange rate because, um, well, it's Google and it's not up to the minute. But yes, to answer your question, yes, everybody here is excited about Trump. I mean, everybody, many people. One little boy said, well, y'all better not go back to the United States because they got Trump in office now. It's dangerous down there. Like, yeah, little boy. That's funny. Anyway, um, we got comments more coming in. Well, that stinking dog. Y'all, my dog just stole my apple and is eating it under the bed. Well, don't let my son get a hold of him. He's got that big knife, remember? Yes, and thank you. Yeah, we gave my son the tools he needed, and we had his back. Terry Crooks. Many Christians I know are furious that Mr. Trump won. Some are even saying that they will leave the country because they are scared. I told them to go ahead, but also to pray that Mr. Trump does well, as he's not as terrible as some leaders in other countries. I still can't understand why people are so scared, considering he was president before. Yes, that's the thing. That's what bothers me, Terry. The gaslighting. Now listen, we can if you want to have an honest conversation about Trump, we will. And when I say you, I'm talking about anybody. If we want to have an honest conversation about Trump, let's talk about him. Let's talk about his faults. He's got too big an ego. He's too braggadocious. He speaks in superlatives. He knows this about himself. He's self-aware. You know, I mean, he's not authoritarian. He made fewer, what is it? He made fewer executive orders, I think, than any other president that's ever been. He didn't do the cages. That was under Barack Obama. All of the things that's laid at his feet, other people, he inherited from other people. So yeah, he's not the devil that everybody thinks he is, but he's certainly no saint. Remember, the lamb looks at the donkey and the elephant and laughs. Like, it's funny. You think you're the hope for the nation. God is the hope for the nation. Why do women not cover their heads in worship? Are they tempting the angels? No, and the reason women don't cover their head in worship is because it's not legislated. Women don't have to cover their heads in worship. Their hair is a covering. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 11 there. Is it 7 or 11? Come on, Tony. I've slept since I've read that. 1 Corinthians, no, it's 2 Corinthians. Definitely not 2 Corinthians 11. All right, having therefore these. Oh, that's still 2 Corinthians. All right. 1 Corinthians 7. No, it's 11. Yeah. Doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man hath long hair, it is a shame unto him, but if a woman have long hair, it is glory unto her, for her hair is given to her for a covering. But if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God. Now in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not, that when you come together, it's not for the better, but for the worse. So in verse 17, he's swapping topics. But in verses 14 through 16, he's just simply saying, look, if you want to wear a head covering, if you don't want to wear a head covering, whatever. Just understand what you're communicating. In Corinth, you need to wear the head covering. You don't need to wear the head covering, depending on if you're a man or a woman. But doesn't nature teach you that if a man has long hair, it's a shame? And if a woman, her hair is given to her as a covering, it's her glory? You know this naturally. Just come before the Lord. Let him have his hair and let her have her hair. That's a good enough covering or lack thereof. Without getting too deep into the chapter, that's what's being discussed. Good question, though. I had to snooze a brother because he keeps talking about his flaws as if no other president had any. That's somebody replying to Terry, Deborah O'Neill. And good morning. Sorry, hey Alabama, you've already said good morning. I didn't realize that I thought that said good morning. I didn't realize you saying good morning to somebody else. All right. Well, it's been a short free for all Friday, but I guess I could talk a little bit more about this. What was going on in Corinth there, from my studies, is that there was a societal significance that a man who wore a head covering was a servant or a slave to another man, and a woman who didn't have a head covering was not bound or in subjection to any man. In other words, she was free and on the market. The man, now one has to do with marriage, the other has to do with, your lifestyle. Like the man having a head covering meant that he was a slave. So my best guess as to what was happening is that in Corinth, because of what the teachings of God were, some of the men said, oh, I'm a slave to Christ, then I'm going to come to worship with my head covered. And the church in Corinth evidently was like, well, what about that? Okay, so Paul clears it up. He says, look, the head of every man is God. The head of the woman is the man. The woman needs to have her head covered because she's in submission to her man, and the man needs to have his head uncovered because he's not bound to any man, he's bound to God. Paul was not trying to change societal norms. He was trying to clarify and delineate societal norms societal norms in the face of Christian teaching, the teaching of Christ. Now he goes on to say, look, you can do this. You may even need to do this, but you also need to understand nature teaches you. A man with long hair, it's a shame. A woman with no hair, it's a shame. Her hair is given her for glory. The man's head is not given him for glory. But if somebody's contentious about this, explain to them that we, the apostles, have no such tradition, nor the churches. In other words, nowhere, anywhere has an edict from God came down about head covering. So it's not legislated. That would be that's my full, without breaking out the research and breaking out the citations. That's what I would come up with. Man, we have got so many people in. Thank you so much. If everybody that is watching or listening to this would back out of the live stream and hit the thumbs up button like it was a normal video, that would be awesome. We would also love for you to share the content. Jacob Mahabir, good one. Oh, and angels. Yeah, they're not tempting angels. I mean, tempting them to do what? Angels are observers. And the reason angels are mentioned there is it's more like, I don't think angels have a good grasp of humanity. And so angels, I think, rely very heavily on sexual dimorphism between biological entities, the humans. Like, I don't know that an angel, if I shaved my beard and I shaved my head, and a woman built about like me shaved her head, and of course she didn't want to have a beard, if we dressed up the same way, every human being in existence could tell the difference between the man and the woman. But I don't know that the angels could. I think the angels rely on more of a dynamic dimorphism. Let me see if I can't remember that verse. Yeah, for this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman, neither the woman without the man in the Lord. So again, that's a difficult question, you know. I'll just read it here. If we got any more comments come in, I'll get them. So Paul says, be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances as I delivered them to you. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head. I think that's talking about, that's metaphorical of any person who prays or prophesies and he's in bondage and he's claiming bondage to another when he's not bound to another. It's not good. He dishonors his head. Well, who's his head? His head is Christ. So the man is dishonoring Christ. But what about the woman if she prays or prophesies? Well, listen. For if the woman be not covered, let her also be shorn. So if a woman's going to pray in Corinth without her head being covered, she might as well shave her head. Why? Because it's a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered. A man indeed ought not to cover his head, forasmuch as he is in the image and glory of God, but the woman is the glory of the man. Now that means that the woman in the assembly who is married, because that was the custom in Corinth, if she prays, she needs to pray with her head covered, if she has a right for it to be covered. Because if she uncovers it, she's dishonoring her husband, which is in turn dishonoring God, Jesus, which is in turn dishonoring God, because her head is uncovered. She is communicating that she is unbound when she's actually bound. Now that's the stuff that we can know. But then it gets here. For the man is not the woman, but the woman of the man. The man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. This tells me we're talking about a married couple here. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman is for the man. So this is the natural order of things. And then we mention angels. Because of this cause, ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels. Now, why in the world is that because of the angels? I think it's because when angels observe us, they need to be able to tell us apart, or they would desire to be able to tell us apart at a glance. Think about having twins, but they're fraternal twins, not paternal. They're not identical twins. I don't know what the name for non-identical twins are. I thought it was fraternal twins, but it could be paternal. Anyway, help me out in Google if you want to. If you've got a boy and a girl, when they're little bitty babies and there's no external sexual dimorphism, what's the easiest way to tell your boy apart from a girl? You dress the boy in blue and the girl in pink. Because at a glance, you can tell them apart. Because a little baby is so totally different and alien from a grown adult that they might as well be a different species. We don't even understand them. We just give them food, try not to drop them, make them warm when they're cold, make them cold when they're warm. love them and raise them up till they start talking. Then we prayed for 18 months to 2 years that they would talk and run around. And now after that, all you pray for is that they would sit down and shut up. Anyway, I crack me up. But the point is, it's at a glance. Well, angels need to be able to tell us apart at a glance. So if me and my wife's going down the road, I'm the one in the driver's seat because guys drive, women ride. That's just, I think it's the weirdest thing in the world to see a man driven around by his wife. Blows my mind. I know some men don't drive. I get it, but it's just crazy from my perspective. Men, as a general rule, have shorter hair and less of it than women, as a general rule. Even during the time in which this was written, whenever some of the soldiers had what's called mullets, they were shorn, you know, party in the front or party in the back, ball business in the front. So they would have had quote unquote long hair, but it would not have looked like a woman's hair. It would have looked like a warrior's hair. It would have been very practical. So angels looking down, even if a man's got hair hanging down to his waist, there's still a way to cut that hair that makes it look manly and makes it to where it can be gathered and easily fit under a helmet or something like that for a war. Anyway, that would be my probably overly long way of explaining that passage of Scripture. I don't know exactly why the angels are mentioned, but that's my conjecture, and that's as good an explanation as I've ever heard from people or read in a commentary. All right. You can tell the difference between a man and a woman if you live in the red states. You got that right. Good morning, Connie Barton. It's good to see you. Diana, I'm going to read your comment, but I can't. No, I can click on it. I'm going to leave it there so everybody knows what I'm reading. Since Trump's win, I've heard numerous people from the black community, as they refer to it, and woke white people say that the election results prove that white people are racist because they wouldn't vote for Kamala. It has nothing to do with race, whichever one she's claiming at the moment, or even that she's a woman. It's about her policies, character, etc. So tired of the race card constantly being used and used wrongly. I've moved 14 times in my life, all in the South, and I've never seen white against black racism. But I've regularly seen black against white racism and violence, especially in one majority black city. I gotta scroll up. Growing up, I never had issues with anyone with a different skin color. They were all my friends. Some, my brethren. Oh, I've lost my place again. Yeah, they were my friends, some my brethren in Christ, and later, my co-workers. For many years now, the race baiting has been out of control. According to multiple reliable sources who are black and grew up in the black community, the black community in general is raised from birth to hate white people and blame them for everything wrong in their lives. What I see is that those of color in general only care about their community, constantly saying to do something for the black community as opposed to the nation as a whole. They say by black, etc., they promote only black. In my opinion, they are segregating themselves and making themselves superior to every other race. God made one race, and we all go back to Adam. I don't see color, but in recent years I find myself feeling bitter about this and falsely accusing the white population and falsely accusing the white population as racist. How do I get past this bitterness, and how can we get the black community to see that we aren't the enemy and to stop believing the lies said? Absolutely. First off, you've got to stop caring what they believe and what they say. This is one of the biggest things that we have to understand. I have been told so many times that I'm a racist. I don't care. I put out a post whenever Ahmaud Arbery was trespassing and detained because he's a criminal. Like that got so much national attention, and then it petered out when it went to court because the facts of the case came out, and it wasn't what was used to set everybody on edge. I'm not saying that all parties involved were innocent, but it wasn't what everybody was told. And I can't believe the people that called me and was like, well, Tony, he was just looking at new construction house. Everybody does it. You do it. Like, no, I don't. Do you know why I don't go to new construction places and go up on job sites on land that I don't own and construction sites that I'm not in charge of? Because ever since I was a little bitty boy, my grandmama and granddaddy and my mom and my daddy and my uncles and my aunts and my cousins, they all said, you'll get shot. You don't go on property that's not yours. They will shoot you. In the city, they might rob you and mug you, take your watch, take your keys. Typically, you can stay out of the bad parts of town. You won't get shot. In the country, just stay on your own land. You won't get shot. But the problem is the gaslighting. I was told I was a racist because I put the post out that says the hierarchy of outrage in the United States. Number one, a white man kills a black man. Full outrage. Number two, nothing. Nothing else outrages the populace. Oh. I had people coming out of the woodwork to tell me how racist I was. You know my response? I'm not racist. Yeah, but you don't want people thinking you're racist, Tony. I don't care if they think I'm racist. If it's the truth, I'm going to speak it. The truth is not racist. And when I say everybody, there were many people who were sharing that Ahmaud Arbery case. And then throwing down the gauntlet and say, don't you dare tell me that all parties involved were culpable. This was a clear case of white men seeing a black man running down the road and murdering him in cold blood. First off, folks, that is factually incorrect. My thing is, in order to get past this, you have to not care how many people think you're a monster. I just don't care. Go kick rocks. I've seen what makes everybody cheer. So their boos mean nothing. But yeah, that's until people on the right start having thicker skin about being called racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, those words are going to be powerful. Well, they can get me fired. Well, you were looking for a job when you found that one. Speak the truth. If you get fired for speaking the truth, all truth is God's truth. All truth brings about the will of God. Then it was God's will for you to be fired. Corinth had a problem with prostitution. Prostitutes at the temple often had their heads shaved. Robert Leedy, I was taught that, and I believed that for a very, very long time, but I have come across some research that makes me think that might not be the most accurate thing. I ain't saying you're wrong, because I got 10 books behind me that will say exactly what you said. Crack it open and see if you don't come to the same conclusion I do. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I have found some pretty compelling research that would state that doesn't hold quite as much water as we should be saying it does. Something very interesting to discuss. Anyway, and I'm not prepared to discuss it. I cannot defend that position whatsoever. It's just a tickled memory back there. All right, Gold Trap. We got parts 1, 2, and 3. Oh, wait a second. Let me get Connie Barton. The race thing got worse when Obama was president. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And it started with the hands up, don't shoot. That was another race hoax. The guy, at no time did the kid ever say hands up, don't shoot. And once the body cam footage, once the testimony of the witnesses, the kid was at fault, and it was a justifiable shooting. But Barack Obama used it to stoke the nation. He said, when I looked at him, I could see that would have been what my son looked like. No, it wouldn't. Your son wouldn't have been a thug running around in the streets at night. You're of the upper echelon in our caste and range system. Your son would have been in a private school somewhere. So no, has nothing to do with red, yellow, black, and white. It has to do in the United States with green. It's not race privilege, it's money privilege. But Barack Obama made it about money, and we've been going downhill ever since. I'm going to tell you, man, whenever I was growing up, all of my idols were black. All of the television shows that I watched were black. All of my friends that weren't blood related to me, they were black. And then you're right, something happened in 2000. Well, 2000. Come on, Tony. Yeah, 2008. Because he was elected in 8 and then again in 12. All right. Back in 2001, I attended a monthly meeting through my work for Disney. The topic was diversity. The topic was trying to speak English, Goldtrap. Evidently, I can't. Hold on. Back in 2001, I attended a monthly meeting through my work for Disney. The topic was diversity. I challenged the presenter. How many white people worked in the factory that made this pen? I don't know. How many black or Hispanic workers were involved? I don't know. How many Jews, Catholics, or Muslims? I bet the answer is I don't know. I don't care who was involved. I take it back. I don't know was not the answer. I don't care who was involved. I only care that it works. Thank you for proving my point. Exactly. Exactly. This saying kind of loses its effect in Canada. Oh, wait. I have Canadian money with me today. I have $20. This is a $10 bill. Can you see whose picture that is? Queen Elizabeth. No, I think. I can't read, but I'm pretty sure that's Queen Elizabeth. No, that's not Queen Elizabeth. That looks like a woman of Middle Eastern persuasion. Anyway, but notice the color, and it's plastic. Here is a $5 bill. This man, I can't read it because my glasses need some work, but there is a $5 bill. You can see all of the bills have these things that you can see through. Here's the back of them. But anyway, so this saying doesn't quite hold as much meaning in Canada because the money is all different colors. But I always grew up with this saying. Blood is red and money is green. Those are the only two colors we care about. Really. Money's red. Money's green. Blood's red. The only two colors we care about. And that's the way it needs to be. Who cares? It needs to be based on merit. We need to be just like God. We give grace in abundance. But in order to be in our inner circle, you have to earn your place. In other words, you have to do something. So I give everybody I meet every day the same fair shake. Love. I love. I overlook a lot of idiosyncrasies that I don't like. But if you're going to be my bosom friend, I have some boundaries. Well, that's the way we ought to deal. Nothing wrong with it at all. Guys, we've gone 56 minutes. At 30 minutes, I thought we were done. I'm so thankful y'all got on and asked some questions, and I hope something I've said has been profitable, pleasing to God, profitable to you, entertaining. I feel like sometimes I can get on here and be pretty ranty. I've tried to work on that as of late. But I really enjoy these Friday sessions. I hope you enjoy them as much as I. How many people worked in the factory that produced this pen who were ethnically diverse from one another? Doesn't matter. I just want my pen to work. We have to go back to what Martin Luther King said, and he's another flawed American hero. He wasn't perfect either, but his message was on point. His message was on point. He who dreams of a nation where his children will be judged, not for the color of their skin, but for the content of their character. If we can get back to that. Now, as we close the podcast, I have a plea to everyone listening. Tell everybody else that you know. We need to learn how to win. We got everything we wanted and more from this election. We need to be active in the culture. We need to call our senators, our congressmen. Be the vocal. Be the activist. We need to reward them for making the right choices. Let's show our support. And as a word of admonition to the Republicans in politics, I'm just a nobody, so you'll probably never hear this. But you got everything you wanted and more. There'll be no excuses these 4 years. You got what you wanted and more. You better do some things. You better do some things that help this nation. Because if you don't, you're done. The next election will be a great blue wave. But if you get in there, if you handle business, if you do what you say you're going to do, if you make government small, if you stop the border crisis, if you find some kind of common sense legislation on abortion, something that would appease the far left all the way to somebody like me that thinks there should be no reason whatsoever, anywhere, anytime for abortion. If you don't do it, we may not ever have another Republican president. That's all I've got to say about that. God bless every one of you. This has been Tony Brewer with Cogitations. I love doing these shows so much. Thank you so much, Connie Barden. Thank you to all the people who commented. Thank you so much. And you got that right. Trump's got an enormous mess to clean up. And we'll know whether or not he's done it. And here's the thing, I don't expect Trump to do it. I really expect Trump to put people in who can, and I'm already been very impressed with some of his decisions in that way. There's one or two that I've heard of that I'm like, are we swimming in familiar waters? We don't need to do that. But I ain't in charge of the world, so I ain't got to worry about stuff like that. God bless every one of you. This has been Tony Brewer with Cogitations, powered by Christianity Now. Like, subscribe, and share, support all the things. I did get a card in the mail from somebody. You know who you are. I'm the world's worst about showing gratitude. I should have already said something by now, but you'll never know how much that little card meant to me. I've had a rough couple of weeks because of grief. Didn't realize how profoundly impacted I was. And that card really helped me out. See you later, Hey Hey Alabama. See you later, everybody. Like, subscribe, and share, and do all the stuff. You know what to do. This has been Tony Brewer with Cogitations powered by Christianity Now. Folks, we'll catch you on the flip side.